Hello and welcome to the PhoneBurner training. My name is Jeff Osnes, and if you've run across this training, then you're most likely running an automotive service department. I want to show you how PhoneBurner can help you and your team get more of your past clients back in the door, getting their car serviced with you and not your competitors. So what you're looking at on the screen now is the PhoneBurner CRM. The PhoneBurner CRM is customizable, so you can create folders to help you organize and keep track of all of your contacts or records that you're going to be calling to try to get them back in to be serviced, right? We also have what are called saved searches. Think of saved searches like a dynamic workflow, where contacts can move from one saved search to another based off of activity, previous activity, lack of activity, things like that. And so what I've done is I've set up this particular account to have several saved searches to help me move my contacts through a particular series of calls. So what we'd want to do is we'd want to take our records, our contacts that haven't been in for at least 2 months from your external database. I'm certain you've got a database of some sort where you're tracking when somebody came in and was last serviced, right? So you take anybody who hasn't been serviced for at least 2 months, and we load them into PhoneBurner into our service reminder call folder. Once we put them in there, that'll drive the first service reminder saved search. So anything that hasn't been called needs to receive their first service reminder call. Once we start calling through this data, depending on the outcome of the call, those contacts will get moved into different folders, and that'll drive our additional calls. So let me show you how quickly you can make these calls and start filling up the bays in your shop. So I'm going to go ahead and select all and begin a dial session. There's just a little bit of setup that you're going to go through each time you're configuring a new round of calls. So depending on the type of data you're calling or the number of times you've called them or the date you're trying to call them, you'll make some adjustments from one dial session to another. But let's go ahead and continue, and we'll get connected to the system. I'm going to move this dial session window over a little bit because I want to actually be able to see these folders while we're making calls so that we can talk about that. Now let's go ahead and hit start dialing, and the system will start calling through the list that we'd selected. And you'll see that as you're calling through your contacts, you can have contacts with multiple phone numbers. And you can set it up so that if they don't answer on one, we immediately start calling the next. Or let's say it goes to voicemail. You don't have to listen to the entire greeting or wait for the beep. You just click the voicemail button and the system will leave your pre-recorded voicemail on their voicemail system at the appropriate time. Let's say this one is another no answer, so we'll move on. So that is it. That was every phone number for that record. Now we're moving on to our next contact. Now let's say they answer the phone. You just start talking to them. No pause, no delays, no awkward silence. But at some point you'll click live answer and the call when you're done talking to them. And at this point you'll have all these dispositions or buttons up on the screen, which I'll point out are completely customizable and can be configured to also send email. So you'll notice we've already triggered one email to be sent to our first contact that we called that we were unable to reach, right? We can review any custom fields that we may have regarding this contact. So when they get on the phone, we can have a natural conversation with them about their car and get them booked and scheduled to come in and service their car. These buttons are also configured so that they'll automatically move contacts into the different folders based off of the button you click on. So let's say I were to offer this contact a deal, so I'd set that deal date as today, and let's say I booked an appointment with them, so I scheduled the appointment. And we'll move on to the next call. You'll notice that at this point it didn't call through any additional phone numbers because we had completed everything we needed to do with that contact record. And we'll go through a few more calls here, just showing you how easy it is to go from one call to the next, leaving voicemails at a click of a button. Also, I want to point out this phone script option. As you're making calls, you can actually have this phone script up on the screen. And you'll see it's dynamic, so it can actually automatically insert data, whether it's contact information or custom field data. It can all be inserted into the script. And it'll change as you go from call to call. So let's say this contact doesn't answer the phone, so we move on to our next contact. And you will see, look at that, now we're calling Yvonne Sample. She has a GMC Terrain, and it's due for service. So if she answers the phone, I can literally just read through this script. Yvonne, this is Jeff over at JR Automotive. Like to get you in and get your GMC Terrain serviced. Let's get it scheduled. You know, whatever you want to set as your script here. But let's say we have our conversation with her. Once again, we're looking at our disposition button so we can set the outcome of that call. And depending on the button we click on, once again, we'll move the contact appropriately within the system, and we'll take it out of any future calls if they no longer need to be called during this month's calling campaign. So now that we've wrapped up with Yvonne, let's say that she is going to call us back, so client will call us back, and we move on to the next record. I'm going to go ahead and end this session now. Here you can see I spent 6 minutes calling 6 contacts, made 12 phone calls, talked to 2 people, sent 4 emails, left 4 voicemails, and literally saved myself 18 minutes using PhoneBurner for just 6 minutes. See how easy it is to get these calls done? And the great thing about it is you can load that data up one day, and the system will remember where you left off. You just click this first service reminder, and everybody that you've already called will be removed from this list. And depending on whether or not they need to be called again, will determine whether or not they'll show up in the service reminders calls 2 through 5. So you click on this, and you'll see that it's empty right now because all of our calls that we made today are not due to be called again. This Save Search is set up dynamically to only show contacts that need to be called and haven't been called for at least a couple days. You can do the same thing for any recall list that you might be working on. And then finally, as you've worked through the data, you need to just clean it out of PhoneBurner, and we can simplify that as well. We have a couple Save Searches here to help us delete the contacts that need to be deleted based off of when they were added and the outcomes of those calls that were made to them while they were in the system. By clearing out the data, next month we'll be able to load new data in and not worry about duplicates getting in the way. Getting PhoneBurner configured and set up to do all this is super simple. We've got a template in place, and we can get that applied to your account. And you and your team can take advantage of the downtime you have throughout the day to make sure that every bay in your shop is always filled, maximizing profits. Anyway, I hope this has helped you see how PhoneBurner can help you make more money and keep your service department filled to capacity. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you go to PhoneBurner.com and set up your free trial. No obligation, no credit card required, and we'll even help you get this configured and set up. So what do you got to lose? Go set up your trial today, and happy dialing.